Good morning, Alana. Hi, Lisa.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
And let's see. Oh, Peter. Hi, Peter.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Venerable Robina has arrived in a flash. Venerable, those are relics that Venerable Roger sent to Geshe Geluk.
Okay. Happy to see you all. Who's on Zoom? Let's have a look. Not on yet. Nothing happening. There's still just a dark screen, John. Okay, good. Hi, people. All of you, I can see you. Yeah, good. Okay. Good, good, good. All right. Okay, so we're here to continue our discussion about the 6 perfections on the Bodhisattva path, the path to Buddhahood, the final stages of the path. So that we can follow the steps. Just all the holy beings, the knowledge holders, rigs, I like that word, knowledge holder. Right back to the Buddha, handing us over the methods they have used to achieve the goal. They're telling us how to do it. Here it is. I've got the recipe. I've made the cake. This is how you do it. Over to you, babe. So we very happily listen. And pray that the holy beings bless my speech so I don't say rubbish and mislead you. That would be very terrible. Sangye cherang choke chognam la jangcho baru dagni kyab suchi dagi chernyen gi pesonam ki drola penchir sangye drupa shok sangye cherang choke chognam la jangcho baru dagni kyab suchi dagi chernyen gi pesonam ki drola penchir sangye drupa shok. So we take refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and in order to become a Buddha, we're going to listen to these teachings, okay? That's what it says. So what we did yesterday was give the kind of the preliminaries to the 6 perfections, which is the getting of bodhicitta, which is the getting into the compassion wing. The day before we were looking at the wisdom wing, all the nuts and bolts of karma and the mind, which is what we put into practice to put ourselves together. You've got to keep remembering this. All the teachings of the first stages have got zero to do with benefiting others. You've got to understand this. It will have the benefit of benefiting others, but you've got to understand this. But the emphasis in the first stages is to benefit you. We don't hear it that way. That's the point. As Lama Zopa says, you abide by the laws of karma and don't kill and don't steal and don't lie. You're the beneficiary because you sow positive seeds and will get good results. But he says, but the rats and roaches will be happy. They'll have a party because you're leaving them in peace. So you see the point here. You're the beneficiary of working on your mind. This is the method to help you become happy and wise and stop suffering. But indirectly, others will, of course, benefit. If you, in your family, if you start working on your mind and change yourself, everybody benefits, but that's not the goal. You've got to hear that. Now we're talking on the bodhisattva path. Then here, the shift is completely different. You keep working on your mind, but now the reasoning behind it is so that you can be beneficial to others. got to hear the distinction, you know. You achieve the two purposes, yours and others. That's what I all the time say. You achieve the two purposes. But we've got to see it this way. Be very clear, each step, precise, step by step, you know. Of course, you can put them all into practice in one day. You know, if you control your body and don't put the fourth piece of cake in your mouth, you're practicing junior school. First scope, above, you know, control your body. You watch your mind and be careful. You're doing the middle scope. You're watching your mind. You know, you're controlling your mind. And maybe one day you'll say something kind to somebody. That's the compassion wing. Just see my point? And then maybe you'll say a mantra, which is Tantra. That's postgraduate. You can do all of them together, but you've got to see where they all fit. We do that with any body of knowledge. It's the same. If you open up a book on mathematics, you have to know which is the early stuff, the middle stuff, and the later stuff. We're not used to thinking of spiritual paths like that, but this is the point of this practice. And once we hear this, it's really helpful, extremely helpful, you know. So what we did yesterday, you know, was looking at pointing out the necessity of practicing the first stages, controlling your body, speech, and mind, as a prerequisite for helping others. Got to understand that. And that's what we don't understand. Like I said, one of the commonest things people say is, oh, I'm a Buddhist, I love the compassion, I have such compassion, but not for myself. It's because you've missed out junior school and high school. And anyway, your university level, college level of helping others is so limited because you're full of attachment and misery, and you only have compassion for the little babies and the little animals. A few animals and a few children, it's about it. Because you've got to be innocent to deserve my compassion. Do you understand? Yes? Are we communicating? Are we recognizing? Okay, so there's no way you can understand why you should have compassion for the wackos until you've done the wisdom wing. And that means there's no way you can have compassion for others until you understand how your neuroses and your negative actions harm you. You understand? You don't get that in the West, I tell you. We miss that bit. We hear it as guilt and blame and I'm bad. Ridiculous. So we looked at equanimity, you know, how the three poisons in reference to sentient beings, not to cakes and, you know, money, but here's to sentient beings. So those who are friends, the ones we have attachment for. Those who are the enemies, the ones we have aversion for. Those we couldn't care, have indifference, the ones we, you know, the strangers. So we first step is to shift the reasoning behind why I want others to be happy, that is to have love. Why I want others to stop suffering, that is to have compassion. We shift it from, because as long as you do what I want, I'm going to love you. And if you don't do what I want, you're in the enemies. And if you don't do either, I don't care. That's the rule of the universe. We're going to shift that principle, that assumption to the which one? To I want you to be happy. You know why, babe? Because you want to be happy. That's the difference. And then you conclude, and we all know everybody wants to be happy. That's the first step in equanimity. Then we move forward to start to see how people are being kind. Then we want to repay their kindness, and we gradually move step by step, you know. Now we start to see the difference. That everybody else wants to be happy. I want to be happy just like everybody else. Then we gradually start to see others are more important than me, and then we have love, may you be happy. Then we have compassion, may you not suffer. And then we have the extra level. It's this powerful extra level, unique to the Bodhisattva path. What can I do to make it happen? That's the radical difference, I tell you. That's the brave attitude of the Bodhisattva. It's easy to sit there and do meditations on compassion and have a few tears. You know, that's easy. But then when you say, hey, what can I do? That's the action point. That's the unique characteristic of the Bodhisattva path. And in the long-term goals, it's like that. So if you're on the Hinayana path, which is the first stages of practice anyway, but if you're on that path and you're going to graduate at high school, you know, which means you do the first step, you control your body, you control your speech, you get rid of attachment, and then you get concentration, which we're going to be talking about in the 6 perfections, samadhi, shine. Then you're going to get wisdom, you're going to realize emptiness, because emptiness is a Hinayana teaching, not a Mahayana in its nature. It's taught in terms of the perfection. We're going to go into this. You'll complete the path. And then when you, at one life or other, when you've perfected the wisdom wing, at some point or other, you've achieved in that life your nirvana, your cessation of suffering and its causes. You've wiped out all the rubbish disease of liberation. And then when you die, you'll zap off into bliss. Or, according to the Hinayana teachings, you'll zap off into nothingness. They say your mind ends. This is, as Solia says, we Mahayanas have a problem with that. It was very funny. So the thing is here, if you're on this path, all those teachings in the Hinayana stages, in the junior school, high school, first scope, second scope, are exactly the same teachings. That's the point. As they say, they're the teachings we share with the Hinayana path, which is the teachings of the Theravadan in Burma, Thailand, and those countries. So Theravada is one of the 18 sub-schools of, I forget which one when I studied Buddhist tenets, like a million years ago, I can't remember. But in the different Buddhist tenets, you've got different stages of all these teachings are all laid out under the different teachings of the Lord Buddha. So the first lot are the Hinayana, and that's there's Vipashika and Satantrika, something like that. And one of the, I don't know which one it is, but Theravada is one of the only remaining of the 18 sub-schools of one of those. I can't remember which. And it's universally known as the Theravadan teachings. But it's the only one left of the 18 different variations of this so-called Hinayana path. It's the teachings we share in the Lamrim, first and second scopes, same things. So what I'm saying is this. So if you think about it, all the teachings are given in terms of ridding the mind of rubbish, ridding the causes of suffering. That's how they're named, you know? So you control your body, you control your speech, then you start to lessen the delusions, get rid of attachment, get rid of anger, get rid of jealousy. You're pulling all the weeds out. The emphasis is on that. But if you think about it, when all the weeds are out, what's left? Not just a blank garden, and now you're dead. No, because as soon as you lessen the delusions, whatever virtues you do have in your mind are able to pop up and ripen. Can you see my point? The emphasis is on get rid of attachment, get rid of anger, get rid of jealousy. It's pulling out the weeds. But you got to remember, as you pull them out, you're giving space for kindness and patience and love to manifest automatically. So if you're on the Hinayana path, there's no proactive one of benefiting others in the Mahayana sense. But naturally, as you get less neurotic, you get more kind. You naturally get more loving. You naturally get more compassionate. It's natural. So by the time you've achieved your nirvana, you are this blissful, amazing person. Wow. Of course you've got love and compassion. Bucket loads of it. What else is there left? But the Mahayana path says you can enhance that 1 trillion times by getting bodhicitta. Are you hearing the point? But let's just say you're on that path. You're blissful, you're radiant, you're compassionate, you're kind, delusions have gone. But this is the point. Over many lifetimes, your goal has been, I must get out of samsara. Your goal is, I must achieve nirvana. That's your goal. So you program your mind with that goal. That's your aspiration. Everything is leading to that. So by the time you have completed, you've achieved your nirvana, when you die, you've got love and compassion, but your bliss, at the time of death, your goal and your bliss overrides your love and compassion, and you zap into bliss. Now, the Hinayana say you disappear completely, but the Mahayana say you go into this subtle state of bliss. Subtle state of bliss. And one day, Lord Buddha comes along and taps you on the shoulder. He says, okay, honey, now get out of this bliss and come onto the Mahayana path, become a Buddha and be useful to others. And one Lama, I'll never forget it, in Queensland, Geshe, he said, giving up that bliss is the greatest suffering, the most unbearable suffering in the universe. Isn't that an interesting idea? Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that interesting? That's what he said. So the difference is this one. That's where great compassion comes in. What can I do? So that you're taking responsibility. And that, if you're on the Mahayana path, you go through the same stages. Love, compassion, then you keep going. When you can be at a certain point, let's say you're on the path and you've achieved, you realize emptiness, but you haven't become a Buddha yet, you will naturally just come back. Naturally, even though you don't need to. This is the point. You don't need to. You don't need to. But you come back because of compassion, great compassion, Mahakaruna. What can I do? And then, of course, bodhicitta. So then you get compassion on these stages, and then eventually, especially by doing Tonglen, it culminates in bodhicitta, this paradigm shift in the mind, where there's only now the thought of other. There's no longer the usual thought of I, the one that runs our lives, the natural thought of I, the thought of the worried I, happy I, unhappy I, poor me, this is for me, that one. Don't feel depressed about it. It's just how it is. But of course, we think this is mental illness. When you read about Lama Zopa, the people in the hospital thought he was completely senile. Like the poor dude can't put two and two together, he's got a stroke. No, he had no thought of I. No, he had no thought of the worries about the usual things. That's what we have to understand. Bodhicitta, outrageous state of mind, ridiculous, Then, if you're actually taking this path as if you're actually getting the experience, by the time you've got this bodhicitta, from then on, now you go to the next level where you start to proactively benefit others. The way that like I said, there are three sets of vows, all right? The so-called pratimoksha, individual liberation, those vows that enable you to achieve your liberation, the Hinayana state. So the very first level of those, and they have the character of being vows of non-harming. You're refraining from harming. It's a specific attitude. It's very, very specific, It's a very powerful, virtuous action to not kill. It sounds rather abstract to us, but it's very intentional. This is why vows are so important. I mentioned, if you don't have a vow not to kill, in order for you to drop a non-killing karmic seed into your bank vault, one of which you need at the time of death to get a decent human body, the only time you pop one in your bank vault is when you have a mouse in front of you and you have an intention not to kill and you have compassion and you do the action and there's a live mouse. How often in our day does that happen? If you're in India, in the rainy seasons like Jurassic Park, I swear to you, these creatures, you've never seen such things. I thought in this hotel I was in Varanasi, and at dusk, the door, the French door, they were just bombarded by these creatures, You go to the stupa in Bodh Gaya, and at dusk, the ground is carpeted in sentient beings. You've never seen anything like it. So there you'd be really creating good karma every second, avoiding killing. But here, in Robbie's house, there's hardly a mosquito. I thought in a hot weather like this in Australia, in Sydney, in Melbourne, you're bombarded by mosquitoes, I've hardly met a mosquito here. Do you have some? You do. Don't come to Robbie's house. I leave the door open and no mozzies come in. A little fly came. A fly was chasing me around, hopping on my cup. And then the fly's gone. I thought, how could it get out? There was no door open. And then I opened my honey and there was the fly. And I thought, poor fly, So I thought I'd try and see, maybe it's still alive. So I put in a bit of water and it jumped up and slapped off again, So he's still there this morning. One fly. So if you have a vow, it purifies your mind so powerfully. As I said, Alex Burson, this American scholar, says in the teachings, there's something like such a powerful energy in your mind stream. It's like a subtle physical energy that's visible to clairvoyance. And it sounds cosmic, but it shows the power of it. And remember, we discussed this, the power of intentionally deciding not to kill, and you have it in your mind stream every day. Then that transforms your mind such that every second you are not killing with no intention. You can be asleep. You're ticking over virtuous karmic seeds in your little bank vault. So you can't get ahead without vows. So the first kind are no wiggle room. You just back off and be cautious, and you don't kill, and you don't steal, and you don't lie, and you don't badmouth. This is so profound. It seems passive to say it that way, but it's a powerful, powerful, intentional action, dropping karmic seeds in your mind, purifying your mind, programming your mind. And the main purpose there is for you. You're the beneficiary. And of course, as I said, incidentally, the rats and roaches will have a party because you leave them in peace. They're so happy. Like I heard about some place in Vermont where all the deer in the deer killing season, all the deer know this place. They don't get killed. So they all come there because they know they're not going to get killed. They're so sweet. So then you've got the Mahayana vows, the Bodhisattva vows. They are also vows of non-harming. They're more profound, but they're vows of non-harming. But the difference is radical. So the first lot, don't kill. Why, Buddha? Because, honey child, it happens to be a negative action because a poor person gets harmed. But why I want you to stop doing it, why I'm recommending, he's not a boss, why I suggest as a method to not do it is because you will then stop sowing seeds that will cause you future suffering. You're the beneficiary. No wiggle room. Just don't kill, don't steal, don't lie. Of course, if you analyze the action you do, the motivation does count, but the main one is just be cautious, be disciplined, control your body and your speech, Karma is all about body and speech, behavior. The vows are about behavior. Nearly all the vows are behavior, not about the mind. They're behavior. shaping your behavior. It's a beautiful way to put it. That's like when you drive a car, like I said. Not this, don't do this, don't do this. You're shaping your behavior. You're turning into a good car driver. Hear vows like that, not some restrictive religious thing, someone sitting on top of you, which is how we think, it's like ridiculous. So the first lot, no wiggle room. Now you get to the Bodhisattva path. Huge shift. This is before the perfections. Huge shift now. And the vows there, you got 18 root vows and 46 secondary vows. And the secondary vows are so delicious because they're all taught, the 46 are divided up into each lot. The first lot to help you practice the first of the 6 perfections, generosity. The second lot, a group of them, are to help you practice the next one, morality. And the third lot are to help you practice patience, and so on and so forth. So they've got a real relevance to the perfections, You're training yourself. It's training. You're training yourself. But here, the point is, still don't this and don't that and don't this and don't that. A vow is a decision to refrain from something, and a commitment is a decision to do something. Just like with the car driving. I will not put the foot on the accelerator at the same time as the brake. I will put the thing there and therefore do that. That's the difference. And I said to you, all the instructions we ever follow to do anything is grouped into those two. We don't think of it this way, but if you do, you understand about now. So the Bodhisattva path, the Bodhisattva vows are more spacious. The first lot, the main goal is to benefit you, to stop you harming. The next lot are still you working on your mind. You're going to still be the beneficiary, obviously, but they're more expansive now because they don't do this because it's the best for the other person. That's the point here. That's the emphasis. The assumption is your mind has grown a bit. You become less neurotic. Now you can you're able to think a little bit what's best for others. They're more expansive, So here, in the first lot, you break a vow just by doing it. The second lot, you break a vow based on the motivation. So you become very conscious. So even in the Bodhisattva vows, you have a vow to break an earlier vow, kill, steal, lie, jump on the wrong partner, if it's for their benefit. You can't play with that. Oh, I'll kill you for your sake. You understand? You can't do that. We think that. Oh, I'm telling you advice for your sake. I'm telling you what to do for your sake. We are liars. Shut up and mind your own business, please. So these ones are very serious. And it causes us to be thinking about what's best for others. So even the simple things like you're at a meal, and John's there, and he passes me the bread, and I say, oh no thanks, I don't eat bread. You broke a vow. Why? Because we never think this way, but you think about it. What's that decision based on? What I want. But he just offered me bread. I have prevented him from creating the merit of being generous. How dare I? Thank you, John. You're so kind. Take the bread. No one says you got to eat it. You got no vow to eat it. Just to take it, accept it, because he's giving a gift. It changes everything. Suddenly it forces us to think of what's best for the other person. Can you hear the point? This first lot, you're being cautious. This lot, you're getting more brave, They're profound. That's why you need to read them. Do you know what you're doing? You can't just say, I know what to do to drive a car. Tell me all the things you're supposed not to do. I don't know. Well, you'll crash in 2 minutes. So every day we don't know these bodhisattva vows. We're harming others and we're breaking out. We're not helping others. We think we are. We run around with, like, as we say in Australia, like a chook with your head off. A chook is a chicken. A chicken is a chick. You go buy a roast chook. We call them chooks in Australia. It's ridiculous, I realise. So a chook with it when we were children, we had chooks, in the backyard, and Daddy would cut the chook's head off for Christmas, right? And you're acting like a chook with your head off, running around like a maniac, isn't it? I don't know if you've ever seen chooks with their heads off, have you? You have chooks in the backyard, you cut their heads off. I know, I never forget that. The chook's still running around with his head off. Poor thing, what a shock. Anyway, you run around like a chook with the head off. I forget why I said that now. I raved on too much. So the bodhisattva vows are amazing. You're programming your mind in the most amazing way to force you to think of others, what's best for others. It's an incredible shift. It's still don't do this and don't do that, but for the sake of others. That's the emphasis in the bodhisattva vows. But there's still vows of refraining from harming. Now, once you've got bodhicitta, now you go to the perfections. Now you will begin to proactively benefit others. This is what's shocking. There's no another new set of vows there. But now you actually start to actually benefit others. Up until then, it's to refrain from harming. You've got to realize this. Even though the Bodhisattva is all about others, but still the vows are refraining from harming, but for the sake of others. The first lot is refraining from harming for your sake. And now on the Bodhisattva path, the six perfections, after you've got bodhicitta, we're going to go through the six perfections now. Now you are proactively benefiting others based on the vows of not harming. Are we communicating? Really important to understand these points, you know. Oh yeah, I just looked up something in the book I was editing about what the dedication. It's really simple. As it says, give your merits away. That's the meaning. So what merits means is the term they use. Merit is another word for like, it's like flowers. You do an action, you put a seed in the ground, you put a seed in your ground, right? And you know it'll ripen as a flower, isn't it? Well, you do a good action and it'll ripen as merit. You create merit, you create virtue, and it'll ripen as a fruit for you. Well, all you're doing is giving that away. So at the end of your day, if you're gardening and you think, I've sowed all these seeds, and you're all excited, and you're going to imagine the roses and the veggies, but now you think, why have I done this? So when they do grow, I'm going to give them to others. That's how you did. That's what dedication means. Do you see my point? That's what it means. Because every virtuous action you do drops a virtuous seed in your mind, which will ripen for you as happiness. So you're remembering when you do it, instead of grasping at the fruit of it, grasping at your veggies, you think, why did I sow those seeds today? Oh, so when they're grown, I can give them to others. So of course you program yourself that way, so all your happiness arises, and it's all for others. It's very practical, but we've got to analyze it properly. You see my point? You understand, people? Give away your merits, he said. Give them away. That's it. That's the way. Okay, now let's look into the perfections. I'm sorry, I haven't studied many in depth from the Lamas. I just have to a little bit that I looked in the Lam Rim and saying it in my simple way, okay? The best I can do, all right? I know we can do it in 2 days, but maybe when we get to emptiness, we can go into it a little bit. I like talking about that. So there are 6. I know there's another grouping called 10. I don't even know what they are, but there's 6. The first, remember we've got the 2 wings of the bird, the wisdom wing, which is the first and second scopes, and then the compassion wing, which is the third scope. So the perfections, the first 4, if you like, are the perfecting of the compassion wing, working for others. What generosity, morality, perseverance, and patience and perseverance are what you are practicing to perfect the compassion wing, to perfect. And they're all really summarized in morality. The ones of doing actions for others is what you're doing, but first of all, the generosity, and then done with patience and done with perseverance. It's the one really of benefiting others. The essence of it is the one of morality, benefiting others. That's the point of all of them. That's the compassion wing, helped by generosity first, and then the one of helping others, morality, and then within the framework of patience and perseverance, if you like, put it that way. They strengthen and energize your ability to help others. And then the other one, the last 2, that's where you're perfecting the wisdom wing. Okay? Concentration and emptiness. So Bodhisattva path, the sutra practice is all sutra. You do the first lot, the first 4, bopping around life after life after life after life, accumulating the virtuous seeds based on benefiting others, as well as hooking sentient beings, making karmic connection with sentient beings, life after life after life. You're building up all this karma with sentient beings, and you're growing and growing in your capacity to help others. And on your cushion, you're perfecting first concentration and then wisdom. And so first lot, you're perfecting the compassion wing. Second lot, you're perfecting the wisdom wing. Then you've got Buddhahood. So the wisdom wing, like I said before, therefore concentration and emptiness technically are the wisdom wing, technically are Hinayana teachings. Concentration actually is a Hindu teaching in its nature. It came from these genius Hindus. And emptiness is a Hinayana teaching. Because how can you get nirvana if you haven't got emptiness? So you can't call it a Mahayana teaching. But here it's framed in terms of the Mahayana, and especially framed in terms of doing it in combination with bodhicitta. So generosity, giving, okay? One of these lovely Lam Rim prayers, I think it's called the Hymns of or the Songs of Experience or something. And I think Tsongkhapa, and he says something like, generosity is the wish-fulfilling jewel with which you can fulfill the hopes of all sentient beings. I can't remember the rest of the verse now. But it gives you the undaunted courage to never give up to benefit others. So why giving? It seems sort of a curious one to pluck out and to make a point of, isn't giving. Why giving? It sounds so weird. You know? Well, I think if we're looking at what we're trying to do in terms of ridding the mind of the rubbish, we see it in reference to that, ridding the mind of the rubbish, ridding the mind. Okay, one more point that's vital. Okay, one more point that's vital, the difference between the wisdom wing and the compassion wing. This is a crucial point within the Mahayana part to get to bodhicitta, the first stages. So the wisdom wing part, refraining from harming, don't kill, don't steal, don't lie. And then the mind, the main obstacle, the enemy, if you like, you're trying to destroy is attachment. This multifaceted, primordially deep assumption that I must get what I want every second. That's emotional hunger, possessiveness, neediness, controlling, manipulating, you know, huge state of mind that pervades. So the main enemy is attachment, and you're trying to get rid of that. Now, on the compassion wing, it's framed differently. The enemy is called selfishness. The enemy is called putting self. You've got to see this difference. The enemy is called putting self first. So you could say, of course, we put self first based on attachment. That's one of the functions of it. The emphasis in the first one is not even about attachment too much to other people. It's mainly attachment to the objects, attachment to the objects of the five senses. That's the most gross first level of attachment. That's the main emphasis in the middle scope. Here, now, you could argue because of that, we put I first. So that's the enemy on the compassion wing, the one, and every step of the 11 steps of these two systems put together, starting with equanimity, the whole point of this is to lessen the putting of I first and gradually making this shift where we make the paradigm shift where now others come first. That's the whole point of that term they use in Tibetan, a very nice term for selfishness, self-cherishing. I remember one time in Vermont at Milarepa Center, we had a course called self-cherishing, something about whatever. And one lady hadn't been to any classes and she thought, oh, I'd love to learn how to cherish myself. She got a big shock when she heard what it was, you know. Do you understand? It's such a nice word in English, cherishing. But we would say it's selfishness. Selfishness, you know, putting self first. It's very funny. I think we're happy to admit to attachment. Oh, it was like a badge of honor. Oh, I've got so much attachment. But to admit to selfishness, no way. Do you understand? It's very interesting, isn't it? I'm not selfish. Don't be so mean, you know. So this is the whole point of the emphasis in the compassion wing, people. You're trying to, everything is to rip out putting me first. Why? So we can put others first. And that's, we can understand giving up attachment to cakes and sex and drugs and roll. People can handle that. But putting others first, I'm sorry. You know, that's a bit much. That's a bit extreme. I'm sorry. And it is in our world. It's weird, you know. But that's the emphasis. Of course, by giving up self-cherishing, of course you're giving up attachment. That's the point. But it's framed differently. You've got to understand the difference. That's the emphasis of all those points. Everything is leading you to gradually put others first. Step by step in these analyses, you know, chipping away at ego's misconceptions. It's a huge one. Putting others first. And of course, we've got to remember again and again what capability you've got. If you just read all these teachings as instructions and you think, I've got to try and now do this one, but you know, if you're studying mathematics and well, I've got to try and do this one now, and it's grade 7, but you're only in grade 2, you won't be able to do it. It's logical. You're not qualified yet. You can still read about it and get excited. So the same here. So we hear these teachings about, you know, putting others first, but you are still working way back in junior school and you're living with an abusive husband, and you're full of victim mentality and attachment and neediness and demented anger. You're not ready to do that level stage. Leave it alone. Read it, yeah, and aspire. We've got to realize it's stages of practice. Lamrim means that, but we don't get it. You know, you've got to be qualified. You've got to be qualified. Got to know what your capability is. That's when I have to do it. I'm sorry, I've got to do the 8 verses before we go on to the perfections. I'm sorry, I have to do it. This is all part of the getting a bodhicitta before the perfections. We'll do it quickly, just roughly. So the 8 verses are really the essence of these are the one of giving up self-cherishing. That's the essence, the advice from Langri Tangpa, this 10th century person, you know. Very simple little verses, sounds so cute. Outrageous advice, really outrageous advice, you know. I'll mention a couple. The second one says, when I am with others, I will see myself as the lowest of all and others as supreme. Now, I always joke and say, if your therapist gave you that advice, you could sue them for abuse, you know. It's too shocking. Do you hear my point? It's so blunt. We desperately in English try to find another word. Supreme, lowest of all, or what we will say is if we're not qualified, well, excuse me, mate, I already do that. You want me to grovel? We've got to understand it. That's why these verses were kept secret. They were esoteric. They were kept secret. Atisha brought them from Indonesia from hearing his Selingpa, his guru. And they only became public when I think Langri Tangpa wrote these verses, you know. Because they're so shocking. As Milarepa said, whatever's Dharma is the opposite to the world. This is most opposite, most insane. You've got to understand the meaning, you know. And the meaning is because all of us have got attachment, therefore all of us naturally have self-cherishing. Don't keep hearing it as criticism. It's advice. It's advice, you know, about wrong eating your food. You're eating the wrong food. You don't go kill yourself. You're accusing me of being evil because I eat the wrong food. You're happy to hear the advice. But when it comes to the mind, it's very painful. We hear it as insults and abuse and you know, criticizing. Of course we put I first. Of course we do. Join the universe. And then there were 3 of the verses in there kind of mind-boggling, you know. 6, 7, 4, 5, and 6, I think. 4, 5, and 6. And the 4th one, I feel that this 4th one, this is like seeing from a distance. The 5th one is like a bit closer, like at work or something. And the 7th one is, 6th one is like right there in very close. So the 5th one or 4th one, whichever one it is, says when you hear about the evil people who've got much suffering, they say rare. Well, I'm sorry, in 10th century, maybe they were rare, the psychopaths. We read about them every day now. You understand my point? They say rare. The rare one who's evil and suffering. I will treat them like a precious treasure. I can't remember the thing now, something like that. And that's intense because who wants to love a psychopath? Nobody. And why are they a precious treasure? Because they are enabling you to smash your self-cherishing and have compassion because they're harming themselves. Closer to home, you're at work and someone, when you're accused of something, basically it's accused of something you didn't do. You will take the blame and offer the victory to others. That's outrageous. That's because automatically we cry out, I did not do that. Instead, you go, you're right, I'm so sorry. So simple, but it's insane, you know. This is where one of the greatest pain we have at work. When you're accused of something you didn't do, we go mad. And the 3rd one is like your hubby or your kid. Person whom I've sacrificed my life for, who I've tried to help, does me terrible harm. I will see them as my guru. Those 3 are so intense, can't even cope, you know. But this is the whole essence. And what's the purpose behind all of these instructions? To help you smash self-cherishing. So the bodhisattvas are eager beavers and just can't wait to be abused, you know. Can't wait to be insulted. Happily eating it up. It's like an atomic bomb under your self-cherishing. Therefore, under attachment. And because they are rooted in dependent arising, it also smashes ego grasping. So it's very skillful techniques. They're intense. They're all the ones that culminate in bodhicitta. Do you understand? And we have 1,000 opportunities a day to practice these if we're brave enough. It's just the 8 verses very quickly, 3 of them, 4 of them. Okay, so now let's get to generosity. So why generosity? Well, okay, it's like here we are with this still, you know, I mean, already we're talking about if you're actually achieving these goals and you've already actually got bodhicitta and you continue to do the perfections, you're just increasing the virtue you've already got. But of course, we can take it at our level. But the one on generosity is really profound because what's behind all of these practices automatically is the bodhicitta, which is what's best for others. So generosity is, I mean, we're meeting people 1,000 times a day, all kinds of people and creatures and ants and dogs and, you know, sentient beings. So if we're trying to be of benefit to others, specifically, the particular practice here is always in terms of what's best for the other, is what do they need? How can I help? What can I give? So you don't run around like a silly person throwing dollar notes onto poor people saying, oh, I'm practicing generosity. No, 1,000 times a day you have the opportunity. In other words, the whole point in the Bodhisattva path is you're trying to see sentient beings in terms of you're benefiting them. The first lot, you're trying to see sentient beings as people you're trying to stop harm, so you keep distant. You're trying not to harm them, you know. Now you've got this outrageous bodhicitta, incredible love and affection for these people, as if they're your most precious child. So practicing giving. So there's 3 levels of giving. The first one is giving material things. Okay, so how does that? The second one is giving spiritual advice. Meant to be more difficult. I think it's easier for us. We love giving advice. You know, you've heard a few bit of teachings and you think you know something, you start a group, oh, I'm going to give teachings. I'm going to help other people. Oh, I'm helping other people. Aren't I noble? You know nothing, you know. We love to give advice. We're so rude and arrogant. But give $1, I'm not so sure. Really, it's how we are. I'm sorry. So this first one is very powerful practice. Incredible practice. So how do you cultivate it? Well, you start in your mind. When I started this thing about 20 years ago called the Bodhicitta Trust, someone gave me some money and I was running the prison project. I needed money, so I thought I'd start this thing and then try to do investments and stuff. I don't like the begging mentality. I hate begging mentality. If I'm on a center, I would not have one donation button. Not one. That's another discussion now. Well, it's not another discussion. It's my view. Because I think, anyway, never mind. It's wonderful from the side of a person giving is amazing. But for sometimes when you become a Dharma center, you get all very noble. Oh, you've got to give me your money. You know, we're poor. I'm not saying the center's like that or anywhere, but I'm just saying it can develop that attitude. Or even I hear some Sangha, you know, they're supposed to take care of us. I mean, it's so rude to think like that. So I decided I'm going to use, you know, this money and try and do investments. So I lost a lot of money. Doesn't matter, whatever, but I did manage to get some. But Lama Zopa, when he heard something or other happen, and the advice was, do not, this is my motto now, do not think of receiving, think of giving. Do not think of receiving, think of giving. So this is a tremendously powerful practice. This is huge practice. Just your mind, your hand won't put a $5 note in someone's pocket if you don't think it first. So the first step is thinking it. So you're seeing sentient beings in terms of what can I give them? Right now, through attachment, we see them in terms of how they benefit us. Isn't it? That's how it is. Here it's a different framework completely. Every sentient being you meet, you're seeing them in terms of what can I give? How can I give? What do they need? So already this is an incredible shift. It's the first step, Tsongkhapa says, in benefiting sentient beings. You're seeing them in how can I help them? And the first one is give. First one is give, you know. Give what? Well, first one, material things. So we do give, but who do we give to? Our beloveds. Or you give your second-hand ones. You buy a new coat. Oh, have my second-hand coat, like you're so generous. How about giving them a new coat? You have your leftover things, you know. We give, yeah, but only to our beloveds. The thought of giving to people we don't even know sounds too weird. Or we'll give and we get a tax break. And that's a good system, but the only reason you give is you get a tax break. You understand? Better than nothing. So that means the ant. Lama Zopa was famous for this one. He's famous for his generosity. The aspect he showed as a bodhisattva was giving. He's got these hundreds of projects, Tibetan old people's homes, animal homes. He saves the goats and they live happy lives before they get slaughtered. The buffaloes in Kathmandu, you know, the goats, the ants, the fish, the creatures. He's famous for this. He's looks like ridiculous, you know. The effort he puts into saving, or giving them food, or saving them. That's a morality one. No, giving protection, they call it. Giving protection. The third one's called giving protection. You could call it that one. Third one's giving material, giving spiritual advice, giving protection. Like helping an old person across the road. A friend of mine always comes with me because I'm old, and he holds my arm and helps. I said, get off me, would you? He's trying to help give me protection, you know. As Alex Burzer says, picking up your auntie at the airport. You understand? That's giving protection. Do you understand? It's also morality, but it's also a giving one. It's very powerful. So anyway, giving food. So there's one story about, for example, Rinpoche. Venerable Roger told it up in Lumbini, you know, in Nepal during the rainy season, where the mosquitoes just, you know, run the show. And Rinpoche meditates all night when he's not helping others. That's what he did all his life. And then Rinpoche went in, Venerable Roger went in to give a cup of tea or something, put it on the desk. And there's Rinpoche with his shirt over his head and his body naked, and all the mozzies feeding, you know, on his blood. That's called giving. So why not start with, as Lama Zopa says, all it wants is one tiny, tiny drop of blood. But look at the panic attack when we discover a mosquito taking my blood, you know. We literally panic. So try with one mosquito, one drop of blood. Good start. Give a mosquito what it needs. Or he'd have the fleas. No, not the fleas. Maybe he'd have them in his socks. He'd happily let his fleas, you know, eat his blood. And then he'd try and check out them. And he came out one day from his room and he had a little milk bottle top, you know, old-fashioned, and he was trying to work out what scorpions liked. So he tried to give what the scorpions needed. So I mean, we think they're so cute, but for him it's serious. They're real mother sentient beings, and if he's clairvoyant, he knows it was his mother 42 lives ago. It's a sentient being. What do they need? They need a drop of blood. Give it to them. Well, like that bodhisattva, the Kurti Senchab said, I mentioned. Just the action of cutting off their hand and giving it to the starving animal is as inconsequential as a leaf falling off a tree. That's giving. That's intense. So think of giving. I mean, you're exhausted by the end of the day. Don't go around, what can I give you? Use your common sense. But it's learning to see differently. See, the whole Bodhisattva path is to see sentient beings in reference to how you can help them. All of them. The psychopaths, the ants, and the beloveds. Reasonably informed by wisdom. Meaning well is not enough. Meaning well is not enough. Meaning well is not enough. We need wisdom. You know, in the sense, common sense, in the simple sense. Like one time in Florida, somewhere we wanted to do the action of saving animals' lives. So you went to the supermarket and there are all these lobsters in the tank, right? And the thing is, once you met them, how can I turn my back? I mean, I'm lazy. I'd rather not save a bloody lobster. It's so much effort. But if I've met all these lobsters, how can I turn my back? How can I possibly turn away from those lobsters in that tank? You can't do it. They're like going to be slaughtered. You don't want to look. So anyway, we decided we'd buy them. We'd big fuss. We've got these buckets, we've got water, put the lobsters in. And the guy was almost, the shopper, the shop guy was so moved. And he said, oh, this old guy, he's going to be dead soon. Don't worry about him, you know. So we got all the others. Now, the thing was, we didn't know whether they were fresh water or seawater. We didn't know. But we tried to work out best, and we went down to the water and we did prayers and chucked them in the water. But if we put them into the wrong water and then suddenly they got gobbled up by another creature, or you save one creature and then it gets eaten by another one. I mean, you meant well, but it's hard to do the right thing, but you've got to have some wisdom, you know. Do you understand? Think of giving, not think of, this is giving protection. So giving money. I mean, homeless people is such an example, and we make such a drama about giving homeless people money, you know. What do they use it for? Drugs? How do I know what they're going to do with it? Maybe I should give them a banana instead. They appreciate a banana along with a $10 note. And that's the one, you know, I have to say, that one I tried to really take seriously. I'm just not trying to show off, but I'm just telling you my experience. When I lived in San Francisco, I mean, 25 years ago, it seems like yesterday, I'd go for walks, and there's all these junkies, you know. I remember this bloke I'd see with his wheelchair, freezing cold night with no shirt on, out of his brain, with his hand out, you know. How can you say no? Oh, you know, as long as you promise you'll only buy a banana, I'll give you money. Can you imagine getting your salary from work? Can you imagine, what's the name of your company? ISIS? Not ISIS, wrong one, ISIS. He works for SAS. Can you imagine if they have a clause in his salary, as long as you don't do video games and buy drugs and have sex and pornography, I will pay your salary. You'd be outraged, wouldn't you? Well, it's the same as giving poor people money. You make you have an agreement. That second you're writing a contract. I'm going to give you money, you know, and then you let the person decide. Who do you think you are? If you know that even if John's going to buy guns to kill, the boss has no right to refrain. But if you've got wisdom and you know a person wants a gun to kill the next door bloke, then maybe you don't do it. But back off, please, and mind your own business. And the practice of giving is what you do here. You give them something. And even then, back in San Francisco, I remember thinking, what can you do with $1? Even 25 years ago, what can you do with $1? So I try. I'm not trying to show off. I'm just telling you. I'd never give less than 10, ever. That means I should give 50 now, 25 years later. And I don't. I maybe give it 20, you know, max. So also our problem is we all think we're poor. And we are probably. We have to live on budgets and everything. But we tend to think we'll only give if there's anything left over. You don't say, well, I'll buy food if there's any money left over after my video games. No, you budget it in. So you budget in giving, like the Mormons, you know, it's really necessary. That's a powerful way to make giving a real practice. Not just, oh yeah, one day I'll give. We don't want to give because we feel poor, you know. I know one time when I ran the prison project and I started to pay salaries to people. I managed to make the money. I did make some money. I didn't lose everything. We paid salaries. So I decided I'd pay them based on what they needed. So one person had 3 kids, so she got more, and they agreed to it. And one woman didn't have it, you know, she wrote down, I told all the people when I hired them, write your budget, because we're all pretty hopeless with money, a disaster, you know. Don't know how to run our lives, we're sort of like babies. So I said, please do a budget and show me how you live your life. We can work out what to pay you. And then she had in her thing, she said, you know, she had giving to poor people. But I noticed there was no credit card payments. I said, don't you have credit card? Oh, yeah. Do you have student debt? Oh, yeah. How much? $40,000. Do you pay it? No, I can't afford that. Well, not to mention not giving, but that's called stealing. That's called stealing. We think, oh, the credit card company doesn't need it anyway. The attitude has to be so pure, you know, you treat money with incredible respect. And you make a deal with them. They're all happy to make a deal. Ring them up and make a deal. Better than nothing. But you have to, it's in the mind what counts, your thoughts, you know. Otherwise you pollute your mind with meanness and lack of generosity and we'll wake up next life with nothing. Not to mention now. So important. Treat money with such respect. Have exact budgets, very clear, but then based on the wish to give, you know. So put in giving in the thing. And then how do you choose what to give? Well, this is where, you know, you've got to think about it. We haven't got limited resources. So you've got to, now the point is here, and this is getting weird to us, you've got to think of what's the best practice for my practice? What's the best for me? Well, you know, the best for you would be to give money to the center. You can give it to the animal show, the animal home, you can give it to the poor people. Incredible, do both. But if you only got a little bit and you want to make a decision on what's the best merit for you, that's not selfish, it's intelligent, give to the Dharma Center. Why? Because something like a place like this, any place that helps people's minds is way more powerful than a place that feeds people food. Don't think this is moralistic, it's practical. As Amazoba said, it's very logical. He said, you could give food to everybody on the planet. Inconceivable virtue, and you benefit, but you only benefit their body. But if you give one piece of spiritual advice to one person, that one person can benefit countless other people and become enlightened. That's more virtue. If you had to choose, you know. Think about this. Think about that. They talk about the power of the object. Some objects of our virtue are so powerful that even if your motivation is not very strong, there's some virtue still there. It's very powerful. So the starting point has to be your mind. I want to give. I want to see others in terms of how can I give. That's the framework for the Bodhisattva's path. You see others in terms of not what they're doing for you, not how they benefit you, or where they don't benefit you, is trying to see them in terms of how can I give them? What can I give? What do they need? What do they need, you know? So give them food if they need food, money if they need money, bananas if they need bananas. Advice if they need, and you're qualified and they need it. Advice, we just blurt it all out like we're God, you know, but they mightn't want your advice. And that's where wisdom comes in. You might see, even just giving advice about nutrition. You see a person who's not overweight, but just unhealthy, and you know all about nutrition, you start shoving it down their throat. Back off and mind your own business, please. They're not ready for it. You know, you might know how to advise many people. They don't want your advice. They're not ready for it. So shut up, you know. Instead of giving the homeless person a lecture, give them a banana. Give them $10 or whatever, 20. 30. Why not? It's the wish to give. Or notice every time I see a homeless person, you don't want to give. Go away. Don't leave me alone, you know. So even watch that one. Even if you haven't got it, don't do that one. Have a thought, I wish I could give. That's different. That's powerful. You're training your mind. Even having the thought every day, if I could give more, if I want to give. They say this lovely story that Lama's talking in the Lama room about this, Pabonka does, this lovely story about this teaching and the Lama giving the teaching. And in the back row is this poor bloke with nothing. And in the front row are all the fancy people who give all the things, the jinduks they call the benefactors. So there's benefactors giving all these beautiful tankas and carpets and special things to the Lama. And the Lama must have clairvoyance because he said, Joe at the back, he's creating more merit because his mind wants to give. He's rejoicing in this person giving, but the bloke in the front is being all arrogant about giving, you know. So even the thought, we've got to keep remembering the mind is important. We don't in our culture. Every tiny thought counts. So if you can't give much, have the thought every day of I want to give. And that's why all these practices of giving, mandala offerings and practices of giving and light offerings and water bowl offerings, these are tremendously powerful. Lama Zopa was a real fan of all these, you know. When we worked in international office in the 90s and I was editing mandala, we had no money. There were about 3 people working in the office. And the man who ran the office at the time was called Harvey. And we got this big gift from a Chinese benefactor. And Rinpoche said, this is the result of Harvey's mandala offerings. These, again, are very hard for our mind. We just see them as rituals. But it's the mind giving, imagining skies of merit, imagining beautiful things, imagining wanting. We just think that's fantasy. It's your mind. It's incredibly powerful thoughts. Imagining giving. If I could, I would. Rejoicing in other people giving. It's tremendously powerful. And inevitably, it'll happen that you'll be able to give. And indeed, you will receive. It's the cause of receiving. Even having access to 1 grain of life in this life is the result of past generosity. In fact, Rinpoche says, to get a decent human body, you've got to have non-killing. But to have anything in this life, which we need to practice, a decent life, that's from generosity. Generosity, giving. It's tremendous, you know. So it's changing your mind and seeing all the sentient beings and wanting to give. Even if you can't give to the homeless person, don't avoid. Don't say, I don't want to see. I wish I could give. Have that thought. This is tremendous, huge. And of course, what you're doing is you're putting bombs under your meanness, your miserliness, your small-mindedness. We all have that. Oh, I'm poor, I can't give. Or I can't do that, my wife might be upset. You know, change your mind, open your mind. I mean, generosity is not a naive thing. Oh, I never think about money, I just give. That's rubbish. That's irresponsibility, you know. Be strategic, make budgets, and grow. But grow the thoughts of giving and want to give, and it will grow. And you will learn to become a giver, and eventually you will receive because it's the cause of receiving anything you need. Are we communicating? Are there any questions so far?
So going back to the example of the mosquitoes, when he was sitting in meditation with his shirt up, offering his blood to the mosquitoes, from what you're sharing, what I'm understanding, and I'm just asking for this.
Yeah, right, go.
In order for him to be at a place in his spiritual development.
That's right.
That he can offer and potentially get a disease from these mosquitoes, potentially, or even die from a scorpion bite, being concerned about.
He didn't offer his blood to scorpions, he offered them milk.
Right, but the mosquitoes could disease, like
Well,
carry
people
disease.
say that, but that's the big fear thing, why we won't have to kill them all, because they cause disease. But often, I mean, who gets malaria in this country from a mosquito? I don't think anyone does. Never mind, go on.
Okay.
Keep going, what's the point?
So I was thinking
I hear you.
from what you were sharing, in order for him to not really be thinking about not harming his body through potential disease.
And he would not have had that thought at all. Not
Right.
even once.
It
Not
was
even
because
remotely.
he was at that place of having already developed his wisdom. Now he was fully in his compassion wing.
So go on, so the question?
So the question is that correct? Because he had already gotten past not harming himself and he had already developed a
No, it's not so much that. No, I hear you, it's a good point. It's not so much that, not so much that. It's more, once you've got compassion, this level that we're talking, there literally is no thought of I. It's not their concern. That's why the dude cutting his hand off to feed a starving animal, that sounds demented. But all it means is the compassion is so tremendous, so utterly, I mean, That's not unusual. Excuse me. I saw a video one time years ago about all the things crazy things mothers do for their babies. One woman lifted a car. One woman ran into a burning house. So we do understand it. So that means even though she had attachment, all she could see was her baby. She didn't see the fire. It's a good example. Do you see my point? But yeah, the wisdom in the sense that he's given up attachment and ego grasping, that's the wisdom. That's the wisdom he would have got in. There's no thought of, oh, I know I won't get a disease, so I can offer the thing. No way, not like that. Do you see what I'm saying? Keep going. Be clear.
Okay. The need, I'm not sure what it was called, the perfection, I'm not sure which one it was, but the getting past the no harm, right? No harm, no killing.
No, wait a minute. So he's on the, yeah, so he's first of all practiced like we are trying to not kill. And why would he not kill? What's his reason behind the first stages of practice? Not killing, not stealing, not lying. Why would you do that? What's the reason behind it?
To not harm himself initially.
And why would you not harm yourself? And in what way does my killing an animal harm me? Just getting
because of
clear.
karma.
Okay, good. So we're clear. So
Right.
he's first of all has the main energy to not harm himself, has the wish to have renunciation, the wish to protect himself and have a happy life.
But allowing mosquitoes to eat from him could harm him.
Sweetheart, we're talking one step at a time.
Okay.
I'm going back to the first level. The first level. At least you refrain from harming. At least you refrain from harming. So at that level, you don't want to harm the mosquito. You're not ready yet to give it its blood. And that's really meaning. Most of us can't even give a drop of blood. So you're at the level of not wanting to harm the mosquito. So that's your first one. That's pretty tremendous. So you blow it off and say a mantra on it because that's all you're capable of. But as you get braver and braver and give up attachment and fear, you need even have compassion. And you know you have such compassion for the mosquito. Of course you'd give your blood. It's nothing. Even if you might get disease, who cares? We use that as such a logical reason to not do anything. You know, oh, I might get a disease, so slaughter the lot. It's not even rising in your mind. But we do that every day. You know, come on. I mean, are you communicating? But only one drop. Most of us don't get. Do we get? I mean, one step at a time. You know. I mean, if you're brave enough, and you know there was a lion there wanted breakfast. I know there's the story of the Buddha. The Buddha in what is that place in Namo Buddha? The place in Nepal is famous. The Buddha, at some stage of his development in a past life, some level of bodhisattva, there's a mummy tiger. He sees a mummy tiger and she's starving and she's about to eat her babies. He has such compassion for the mummy tiger. He cuts himself so the blood comes out and he offers himself to the tiger mummy. I know these stories are ridiculous, but the same with St. Francis. Isn't it on these dudes, you know, went to the lion eating him? We hear all the saints, we hear about this. We just don't want to think about it. It's too much for our mind. Oh, I can't do that. You understand? No, one step at a time, babe. Do you understand? Good. Go on, someone else. So, of course, if you've got a tendency to get malaria or cancer or something, you be what? But you do it with a pure motivation. If you don't slaughter the mosquito, you say a mantra and blow it and shushes it away and wish you could. And may I be able to give you my blood one day. You put a seed in the mind. Do you understand me? That's how we should hear it. Yes, someone. Yes, sweetheart.
When I hear you talking about generosity, I was thinking about the concepts of burnout and compassion fatigue. So how do we avoid falling?
Okay, we first have to interpret them, Andreas, as a Buddhist. Burnout, fatigue of giving people things all the time. I understand, darling. We have to know our level of capability. You have to know where you're at and how much you can give and how much you can do. So if you can survive, you know, if you're advanced at anything, you have to know, at any level of anything, you have to know what you're capable of, and you do that much. So you don't push and push and push until you drop dead. That's foolishness. You do what you're capable of doing, like I'm saying here. So where's the burnout in relation to giving? I don't understand that one. Explain what you mean.
Giving so much that you end up completely.
See, that's stupidity. Yeah. If you are able, like the Buddha, if he's at the level of having such compassion, I mean, you've got to understand that compassion is permanent, is constant, and is huge, and it overrides any thought of danger to oneself. But it doesn't mean he's stupid. The Buddha, there was no choice. If the Buddha had a bloody butcher shop around the corner, he would have bought a pound of meat and given it to the tigers. But clearly there wasn't. So have my body, baby. No problem. So you got to be at that level. You can't pretend. Even if you're not capable of giving a drop of blood, don't give it. But make the thought, may I be able to? You be intelligent. That's what wisdom means, but not foolish and stupid. And give all your dollars away and then live on the street. Oh, poor me. That's called stupid. There's no wisdom there. You be intelligent. If you can't carry a load that's 6 kilos, then don't break your back. But you say, may I be able to carry 6 kilos? And you move towards it. You with me?
Yes.
And the reason you get burnout is because of attachment. Oh, look at me. I'm a giver. Wow, wow, wow. You know, that's ridiculous.
I was thinking also about the recommendation of when you're in a,
Sorry, start again. What?
I was thinking also about the recommendation that if you're in an airplane and the oxygen masks
Oh, yeah, that's right. You
come
put
out,
on others
you
first.
have to first.
On your own first. Yeah, that's well, that's the wisdom wing. Exactly that. Exactly right. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yes. So all the time, what I'm saying is we have to read the instruction, like here we're talking the Bodhisattva path, which is advanced. And then, am I capable? And if I'm not yet, then may I be able to? Not, oh, this is ridiculous. May I be able, you sow the seed. When you read those math, you know, you're playing music and you read 10th grade level and you hear it. Oh, I'd love to play that way. So you keep practicing grade 2 because you'll get there eventually. So seeing it as a process. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good, good,
Thank
good,
you.
good. What else, people? Someone else?
Any questions on Zoom?
Any questions on Zoom? Sweethearts? Nothing? Okay.
I just thought, sorry,
Who's talking?
Venerable. Because I see a lot of monasteries.
Who's talking?
This is Naga.
It's Naga on Zoom.
I can't see. I've got to look.
Can you see
Put
me?
your hand up. Wave your hand so I can see you. I can't see. Oh, okay, I
Okay.
see you now, Naga. Good, darling. Talk to me.
Okay, okay.
Oh, sweetheart.
So when you said that giving to Dharma centers is better generosity than giving to just for the food, but when I go to a lot of Dharma centers in monasteries, I see a lot of Dharma students, they eat more without even thinking of others. So it's like
Sorry, Naga. Wait a
they're
minute.
there for food.
So wait a minute, Naga. What you're saying is you go. Say it again. You go to the Dharma center. And what happens? Say it again.
So when I'm in Dharma centers, a lot of even the
When you're in
monastics
Dharma
or
centers,
students,
what do you see?
yeah, they do eat a lot more food without thinking
Who eats
the
more
others.
food, darling? Naga, be more clear with me. What do you mean they eat more food?
The students or the students who come to study, right? Okay, sorry.
Keep going.
People who come to study Dharma, they're hungry. They're hungry for food also. So I feel like sometimes even though you're supporting Dharma centers, all the people who come to Dharma center, they're not getting all the aspects of Dharma, you know?
So what's
Sometimes
your
when you
question?
ask
I
the
understand. So
beggar-
now what's the point from this, Naga? What is your question from
Okay,
this?
so when I offer food for a beggar on the street, they say, no, thank you, I'm good. But when you are in a Dharma centers, you see people more hungry for food. So how can you say if we give food to the poor people, instead of giving food, we can give to Dharma centers? So not everybody who comes to Dharma centers
Okay,
are
I hear you, Naga.
enlightened.
I hear you, sweetheart. It's
Yeah.
a fairly complicated thought you had, but I'll try and answer it.
Thank you.
Sweetie pie, it's not an absolute. If you can give food to anybody, this is an amazing action of generosity. There is no question. So, but then the next level of generosity, which is a more powerful level, is giving spiritual advice. So that was specifically in the Lamrim what it says, because that can benefit a person so much more in the long term. But do both if you can. That's one point. The other point, giving to a Dharma center, what a Dharma center is, or what a place that gives spiritual advice is a place that gives spiritual advice. So if you're giving your money to a place that gives spiritual advice, That's the first kind of generosity, but the object of your generosity is more powerful than giving your money, let's say, to somebody who kills fish. You're giving money, which is the first kind of generosity. But if you're going to choose between giving money to your child who's then going to go and buy fishing gear to kill fish, I'd suggest that you don't do that. So rather give your money to the child who wants to help people. It's just, so for you giving your money to the Dharma Center, who cares if the people at the Dharma Center eat more food? That's their business. You're not giving it for the food. You're giving it to the place so it can survive, so it can continue to give teachings. Are we communicating? Okay, put your thing
Okay,
on.
okay.
Oh,
I
what's the
get
problem?
it. I get it.
You get it. Okay,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, thank you.
good, sweetheart. We have to do what we have. We have to know where we're at. We don't ever, I keep repeating it a million times, we never think that way when it comes to spiritual teachings, you know. We never think. We just got to see it as absolute concrete. Oh, I've got to sacrifice my life. I've got to give my blood. I've got to give my hand. Oh, I've got to give my hand. One step at a time, please. It's like you just begun playing tennis. You go, oh, I've got to go play Wimbledon. Not yet. One step at a time, okay? Aim for it. Okay. That's the next one. That's generosity, okay. That'll do for the third one is protection, yeah. Help the old people. Protect people from danger. It's a good one because many people live in a lot of fear. Yeah. Next one is called morality, which is really helping others, the ethics. So all the others, everything, the whole path is a practice of ethics. The entire path is a practice of morality. Ethics, morality, synonyms. The entire path is a practice of benefiting others. The first stages are refraining from harming. This next stage is proactive benefiting, because the assumption is you've got some wisdom now and you're capable of benefiting because it's based on wisdom. That's the point here. So there's one of morality. I forget the levels. There's several of them. What is it saying? I don't know. The morality of helping others, the morality of... So in general, really nothing to say about this one, except finding, you know, they say generosity is the first one, giving things, giving advice. Now, the morality one seems to be second because there's more power, because they get more difficult as you go. So this one just means being of benefit to others. So who is it you're trying to help? Well, whoever needs help. The rich, the poor, the happy, the sad, the psychopaths, the ants, the scorpions, the mosquitoes. You learn to know how to help them. So all, of course, here is assumption of wisdom. You've got to have this wisdom. And if you're actually at this level, you have wisdom. And of course, that way, or even giving advice, I mean, back to the generosity one, those holy beings who've got clairvoyance, which you can get when you get single point of concentration, as they progress on their path, their clairvoyance increases. And in fact, I think Buddha says you can't really begin to help people who've got clairvoyance. Then you know how to benefit others. You know what, you have the wisdom to know how to advise people. There's really nothing much to say about this one, except to help others. I mean, I can't think much to say. There's plenty in the commentaries, but helping others in whatever way they need help. Helping others in whatever way they need help. Help them with their luggage. Help them with fixing their house. Help them sweep the floor. Help them across the road. Help people. Help people at whatever level you're capable of helping. Help people with their, you know, it's not like it could be anything. Help people with their budgets. Help people cook a meal. Help people in whatever way they need help. It's not just spiritual level, helping human beings, which is what we love to do. So many all the NGOs, all the non-profits, that's what they're for, to help others. It's amazing, amazing. That's the practice, the perfection of helping others in any way that's necessary. Of course, based on wisdom. It's clear, you know, helping others. So the next two are odd here because they're not about, they're more practices in yourself. Patience and perseverance. Patience and perseverance. So why are they plucked out as important practices? It seems like out of the blue. Doesn't seem to connect, in my opinion. Well, patience, you know, patience is a very powerful one. In the practices, as we know, in the practices that get you to bodhicitta, the earlier stages before the perfections, one of the main practices, as we know, as the more advanced level, which is expressed in the 8 verses, is, as Lama Zopa says, learning to like problems like you like ice cream. So it's already this massive shift in your mind. Instead of having aversion and panic when something happens that your attachment doesn't want, you learn to greet the problem. So that's really what patience is. So let's just talk about it. And so from day one, we're trying to practice this one. The more we understand how attachment functions, the more we understand what aversion is, what anger is, because it's the response when attachment doesn't get what it wants. When I happened to read that randomly from one Lama and then Lama Zopa, it for me was a revelation. It really helped me understand this intimate relationship between attachment and aversion and what anger is, you know. It's when attachment doesn't get what it wants. It's massive. And this is why in our daily lives, 1,000 times a day, we're right back to junior school and high school again, when things go wrong, the wrong coffee, the slurping husband coffee, the red light, the baby events, when your wife doesn't do what you want, we build up this aversion, you know, we don't even notice. So that's why we have anxiety. That's why we get mentally ill, because we don't deal at this most basic level with emotional hunger and then being thwarted. So already in the middle scope, we're trying to have the courage to greet the problem. So, you know, it's like instead of panicking, because basically attachment is kind of eagerly grasping at something, and aversion is having a panic attack, go away, I don't want to see, you know. We know this, and it's also quick. So in the stages to get to bodhicitta, this amazing level of exchanging self for others, one of the most radical practices, and Langri Tangpa expresses it in those verses, is the brave attitude of the bodhisattva to happily, eagerly, happily eat the problems for breakfast, you know, which puts atomic bombs under attachment and self-cherishing. Whereas, again, you have to know your level. I mean, I always use this example. My friend, my mother, she was a Catholic, and she had her husband, my daddy. He wasn't so good at sometimes. He's a bit naughty, whatever. But her best friend was Sheila. And Sheila had a husband called Reg, and she had 5 sons, or 6 sons, I think, or 1 daughter, I can't remember. But I used to like going there when I was a kid, about 13, 14, because I suppose I liked the boys, I don't remember. But I loved Sheila. Because Sheila was as skinny as anything. She smoked about 80 Marlboros a day and lived on bread and butter and cups of tea. Australians are famous, coming from the English, of drinking bucket loads of tea. And the old-fashioned days, you have the kettle on and you have a pot of tea and you replenish it all day and just drink your cups of tea with milk and sugar. That's how we did it. When you come to America and you have iced tea, you never heard such a weird idea in your life, I promise you. Now everybody has it in bottles, of course. But in Australia, we drank hot tea. Throughout the summer, we had hot tea, you know. We didn't care. Because we had these English habits. Anyway, Sheila just drank bucket loads of tea all day, smoked her cigarettes and ate bread and butter. But she was incredibly devoted to God. She loved God, like really sincerely loved God. God was in everybody, including her wacko husband, Reg, who, you know, was just this wacko, drunken bloke. She loved Reg. God was in everybody. So she was funny as hell. Everything was humorous. She cracked jokes. Nothing disturbed her. So Reg would come home from his taxi. He owned a taxi company. He'd come home from his rounds of, you know, for lunch. And he'd jump on Sheila. You know, he'd drag her to the room and jump on her over lunch. So meanwhile, she's not caring. She says, oh, poor old Reg, has a cigarette there, waiting to get on with it, and then gets out into the kitchen again. Well, you know, if she were a suffering person, a victim, she could accuse him of rape and he could go to jail. You with me here? Are you communicating? It was water off a duck's back for Sheila. Who cares? Can you imagine that's possible? Because of her mind, you know. It was nothing. Oh, Reg, come on, darling, get on with it, you know. Meanwhile, get back to a cup of tea and her cigarettes. So it was water off a duck's back. That's greeting problems and seeing it as good. But she'd perfected it. We love the stories when you tell them. It's funny and hilarious. But if you're at an earlier stage, you've got this brutal husband and you're terrified and living in fear, yeah, it will be a nightmare for you. And you'd get the hell out, please. Get the hell out of there as quick as you can. But Sheila, it was nothing. Do you understand me, people? We go, oh, she's suppressing. No, I tell you, she wasn't. I know the woman. And that's why you love to be around her. You don't want to be around victims all day. I love being around her. She was gorgeous. Do you understand me? Are we communicating here? So again, one step at a time, please. Know your capability. So transforming problems into happiness, which means having the courage to not have a panic attack when your damned old attachment doesn't get what it wants. That's huge practice. I cannot tell you. It's enormous. And don't wait till someone wants to rape you. Don't wait till someone wants to hold you up with a gun. Start with the slurping the coffee. Then you'll be training yourself. So when your wife doesn't do what you want, and you build up all these stories in your head, bitterly, with passive aggression. You passive aggression people, give me a mad, angry person any day than a passive aggressive, because they don't even think they're angry. Are you with me, people? Oh, I'm such a good person. I never get angry. Rubbish. Your mind's full of anger, but you don't even notice it. You just tuck it away, Greek problems. So that's what patience is. That's all patience is. Here, and there's 3 levels of patience, okay? First one, accept the abuse. They say it like that. Again, you get accused of abuse if your therapist told you to do that. That's the advice here. I mean, this is incredible one. Incredible level. But you've got to be capable and you've got to aspire for it. So Sheila, the fact is, it wasn't even abuse. It wasn't even abuse. As Lama Zopa says, if you don't see it as abuse, where's the abuse? We don't want to hear that. So it's as if Sheila had realized emptiness, She was a Catholic. She loved God. She was able, her mind was so full of God and devotion and love, and she loved Reg. God was in Reg. She meant it. You've got to see that possibility. So it was not even abuse. It was nothing. It was less than nothing. In fact, she was eager for it to finish and get with the cigarettes and a cup of tea, Can you know that's possible? Can you understand that's possible? But she's not kidding. You understand? She's an example. I loved her. I just adored Sheila. I don't know why I loved her. I think I loved her too because she always praised me. That's a good idea. I remember that. She always told me I had a lovely smile. And you think you're ugly, don't you? So I was so happy to hear this. I had a nice smile. I thought, oh, wow. I loved Sheila. She was amazing. That's patience. In the beginning, we have to practice it, so it's hard, isn't it? But when you've done it, when you've accomplished it, it's nothing. It's water off a duck's back. She'd accomplished it. You could argue like that. So we have to practice. But not like a martyr. Hit me. Let me see if I can like it. One step, come on. You don't have to ask anybody. It's always going to happen every day. So, and basically, this kind of practice too. This implies an understanding of emptiness. I tell you, it implies it. It's not explicit. Emptiness is explicit in the wisdom wing. It's implicit in the compassion wing. Compassion is implicit in the wisdom wing, but explicit in the compassion wing. You've got to understand that. So the more you understand emptiness, the more you understand karma and cause and effect, the easier it is to take the abuse. And why do you want to do that? Because it smashes and puts atomic bombs under ego grasping and self-cherishing, which is your whole goal. It's like I always think of Lance Armstrong. I read this long article about him years ago in the Vanity in New Yorker, before he was a naughty boy, And the maniac effort he made. Now, this is effort one. This is effort, not patience. Okay, I'll leave that till later. Okay, cancel. They seem a bit similar, actually. Patience, putting up with the problem, and perseverance. They seem a bit similar, but they're a very distinct character, I think. Patience. So any questions about patience? And again, the only way to understand patience is to understand anger. And the only way to understand anger is to understand attachment. Okay, go, darling.
Okay. You mentioned that there are 3 levels of patience. The first was accepting the abuse.
Yeah, I forget the rest. What was the second one? What's the second one? I think accepting the obstacles. I have to remember. If someone's got the lamb rim, they can look it up for me. I can't remember. Okay, and one of them is the abuse. All the obstacles like sickness and difficulties and no money and that kind of thing. I think so, but you have to look it up in the lamb rim. I can't remember. Even Google it. Google it will tell you the answer. I'm going to ask Google. Where's my phone? I bet you Google will tell us. They're pretty good things. Or Google's AI.
Yeah, the second one is bearing hardships with patience,
There you go.
especially important for someone practicing Dharma.
There you go. And the third one?
The
What's the
third
third?
one is
Does it say?
is
Eventually.
gaining certainty about the Dharma, which we achieve by meditating on and understanding the meaning of the Lam Rim and extraordinary qualities of the three rare sublime ones.
Oh, that's a sophisticated level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, the second one, obstacles, problems, difficulties, sickness, no money, things going wrong, that kind of thing. We all know that. That's a big one in everybody's lives, isn't it? You understand we have that? That's pretty clear. But the real point is to understand the meaning of patience. I think we think of patience as passive aggression, sort of putting up with something, brushing your teeth, waiting for it to go away. That's not patience. Patience really is a very brave attitude. It's a very open, brave attitude that instead of the panic attack that arises when the bad thing happens, you greet it. It's the exact, you have to really, really, really practice that one. So it's quite advanced if you think about what I'm saying. At the very first level of patience, at the first level is zip the lip, shut your mouth. Next level is to unpack the attachment and the aversion, and you begin to see how they work and how they relate. And you keep getting better and better and better at it, But the reason behind all of this one of patience is because you want to conquer the problems because they're preventing you from being a Buddha. That's the whole point. Patience for its own sake sounds like sort of like horrible. I just got to put up with something, It sounds like just passivity, and that's really horrible. That's a really horrible attitude. Got to understand the reasoning behind it. And I think this is my own added comment here. You've got the people who don't express their anger, don't say words, which is tremendously good. It's amazing when you don't say bad words to people. You don't use abusive language. That's a patient person, okay? That's an incredible quality. But at the same time, you could say that person who's got patience has the passive aggression because it's internal. Do you understand? It's more subtle in their mind. Do you see my point here? Do you understand the point? So on the one hand, it's good you don't abuse people. But on the other hand, and the other point is I think that kind of person from the negative side puts things off, can't be bothered, which is the later one we're getting to, which is enthusiasm. It can be like you're being patient, but no, sorry, not that one. That's a mistake. What I'm saying is the person we've all got attachment and aversion if we're sentient beings. There's no question in our mind, and some of us express it in our behavior. You get my point here? Some of us express it in our behavior and shout and yell. I'm one of them. Then there's another person who doesn't express in their words, who never raises their voice, who doesn't abuse people, who doesn't say bad words to people. That's an incredible quality. And that person is patient. They're miraculous people. They're wonderful people. Are we communicating so far? But because we've both got attachment and aversion in the mind, of course, the angry person, their actions come from their mind, but the patient person doesn't express with their behavior, so they can fool themselves that they're not angry, but they've got it in the mind. But it manifests in a more subtle way in the mind. Do you see my point here? So it builds up internally, mentally. And that's much harder to see. So that's the problem there. So the other way I'm saying it is the quality of a patient person that's good is you don't harm others. But one of the qualities in a patient person is passivity. Passivity. Just putting up with rubbish that you shouldn't put up with. Do you hear what I'm saying here? You put up with things, but in a passive way, and that's not patience. That's laziness. Can you hear the difference? So now, the good side of a person like me, and I really mean this, I'm not trying to say me, but people like me. The bad side is I hurt other people with my words. But the good side of an angry person is its action energy. You're always finding fault. Look at this, look at that. And the bad part is, look at this, they're wrong, it's wrong, that's wrong. But you can use that and go, what can I do to fix it? That's the good side of a person who's got a critical mind. Can you hear my point here? Can you hear that point? And if you can't, I'll discuss it more. You look a bit blank. So I'll say more, shall I? Shall I explain it more? Okay. Anger is aversion, which is the response, is the bare bones mind of attachment, and then the bare bones mind of aversion. Ugly, go away. So naturally, if it's what's happening in the mind with aversion, it's critical. It's finding fault. It's finding fault, isn't it? Attachment is finding lovely things. Oh, she's so beautiful, she's divine, she's lovely. And then she starts to snore at night. Oh, she's so ugly, she's mean. It's finding fault. Can you hear what anger is? It's finding fault in your mind, criticizing, finding fault. And in relation to sentient beings, he, this, she, that, look at him, look at that politician. Everybody does that. But it mightn't be spoken, but it's in your mind. That's what anger is. Anger or aversion is finding fault. Now, if you've got my quality, my type of person, shout out the mouth, hurt people, that's not good. That's got to stop. I've got to become like a patient person and not say the words. But there's a good quality there. If you can use it, it's finding fault. Well, finding fault is a good quality because then you can fix it. A patient person will put up with a broken kettle for years. They think that's being patient. That's being lazy. An angry person was a bloody kettle. It's not working. Let me try and fix it. That's good. Can you hear me point now? It's action energy. Anger is action energy. And if you look at Tantra, the different deities are expressions of these different qualities. So there are some that are the manifestation of purified anger. There are some that are the manifestation of purified attachment. So you can utilize this. You see your nature. So I've got to give up harming people, but use the think of how can I fix it? How can I help? That's good. Don't chuck the baby out the bathwater. But the patient people, the passive ones, fix the bloody kettle. Do you understand my point? Oh, I'm being patient. You're not being. You're being lazy. Are we communicating? Thank you. Got to know your mind, you know. It's a very tricky one. And they're the passive aggressives. That's horrible, horrible. Yes.
Hello.
Hi, darling.
So I was wondering with the story
Closer to the mic.
that you told about Sheila.
Yeah.
I was wondering, so I appreciate the patience and I understand that the goal is to smash the self-cherish.
Yeah, right.
But I'm wondering how much this is also enabling some kind of harmful action from the other person with respect to
okay.
being compassionate.
I hear you, darling. So okay, good. So how was that harming Reg? How was that? How was Sheila happily letting Reg jump on her, stick his thing in her thing and laugh at it? And how's that help? How's that harming Reg?
I guess not respecting whatever, she wanted. I guess there
But she
was
didn't
no
care. She had no wants. She had no wants. She didn't care. Just look after Reg. Give him what he wants. That's okay. No problem for her. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. But then that's the point about wisdom, sweetheart. A person who's got wisdom knows when to say no for the benefit of the other person. They know that. They've got wisdom. It's not just passively letting a person do things to you. That's not wisdom. That's stupidity. You have to have wisdom.
So it would have been different if
What, darling?
Would it have been different if he hit her or something like that?
She might have told him to fuck off, I don't know. She wasn't attached to Reg particularly. So you'd use your common sense. You'd do what's beneficial for the other person. If you were that kind of person, it would be what's best for them.
Okay.
Are you seeing what I'm saying? So it's not an absolute. Always let a person do whatever they like to you. Oh, I'm going to be passive. Do it to me. You'd have wisdom and you'd always do what's best for the other person. I'm not saying Sheila had that level of wisdom, but I was just giving an example of if you don't see it as abuse, it's not abuse. From your side, if you see it as abuse, it's not abuse.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying. Do you see my point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What else, people? Something else about patience? But the only way to understand patience is to understand anger. And the only way to understand anger is to understand attachment. That's really the deconstruction you have to do, That's the deconstruction we have to do. Yes.
On Tuesday, you talked about laziness a
Yeah,
little bit. I was
yeah.
wondering if you could
Go into it. Next level is perseverance, and that's why I'm going to go to laziness in depth.
Perfect.
Rub our noses in it. All right.
Thank you.
That's the next one. After lunch. Now, when's lunch? 12. 12 o'clock is lunch. Yeah. Lunch comes here or we go there. Lunch comes here or we go there.
Go there.
We go there.
Yes.
We don't have lunch here.
No, we're not having.
We used to supply lunch. What happened? You got a beautiful kitchen now. How come you don't give lunch for everybody? I'm serious. Why not?
I don't know. normally we say like, bring your bag lunch and sit with
Oh, you do? I thought
people
you really-
and
I thought you provided. Did you provide lunch in the old days? In weekend courses? No? Often, but not always. Maybe you should think about it. You got a
Okay.
beautiful kitchen. What's the kitchen for?
Yeah.
What's the kitchen for? It's not talking
Yeah.
for lunch to people. For a
No,
weekend course.
we do use it quite a bit more than we did prior to the
Okay,
renovation. Yes, it's
Okay, so
been
you
great.
for buy lunch at a cafe.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
Unless you brought your lunch, then stay
you brought
here and
Okay.
mingle.
All right. Okay.
Talk
Well,
about the
lunch is the
teachings.
time you can have in a weekend course. Lunchtime is the precious one because then you have discussions.
Yes.
It's part of it, and it builds community. But you do it in other ways, I know. But anyway, I'm always giving this advice, aren't I, Donna? Not usually. It would be for anyway. Think about it. You've got a beautiful kitchen. Most centers haven't got a kitchen. A couple of you come and just do a big pot or something. You know, it's easy. Then you all share together. It's wonderful. Think about it. Okay, because then discussion time.
Mhm.
Best for the weekend courses. That's what I like about it. Yes, sweetheart, down the back, microphone.
Going back to your friend who
Sheila.
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 So I was thinking about, she didn't feel like she was being insulted or abused, in her situation. Could that have been due to her attachment though?
Attachment to what?
Her spouse, her husband. Like
She wasn't attached to Reg, believe me. He was this old bloke who was totally like he was like a sixth child for her. You could see it with her. You know, she loved Reg. Reg was a ridiculous person. He was full of bombast and blur and ridiculous and an alcoholic but he provided money from his company, whatever. But she had this commitment to this family, this husband, these children. It was her life, and this was her job. And she was this happy, wonderful, funny, hilarious lady. I adored her. That's
Okay.
all I can tell you.
So I'm just thinking because with patience and when we think about
You wouldn't even call her patience. She just loved Reg and God was in Reg. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
The experience of it.
Yeah.
She was like the end result of some kind of practice, She it was never a burden. She went on about him. She never complained. She never cried. She never went on, didn't agonize, should I leave him? It doesn't even exist. I'm just giving you an example of this particular person I knew.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like with somebody who has attachment for, others, are we more willing to put up with, if you will?
Okay, let's look at
Right.
that. And that's part of also the Bodhisattva bit before we get to bodhicitta. What that one is, let's discuss that. That's attachment to being seen as a good girl, which coming from a pathetic place of being nobody, which is the victim mentality and which is what enables us to be abused. This is not criticizing women. I'm talking about women or men here, but as soon as we say that, we're thinking you're blaming the victim. As soon as we say that, we think we're blaming the victim. But here we're looking at our minds. So that kind of mind is the mind of a suffering person who's a complete victim, which means massive attachment to be seen by others, massive attachment to be loved and given, and entitlement and hopeless feeling of misery and I'm nothing and I'm nobody. That's that kind of person. And that's the cause of so much suffering. I remember watching there's an Australian documentary on Netflix. You might have seen it. Things You Shouldn't Say. It was a really well-run documentary. Just had bare, straight, different people in little groups, sitting, one or two people, and then they were asked questions. And the questions, they read out the question. It was people who were based on race, based on being weird looking, there's a whole group called victims of abuse. And everyone was totally classic. People who began falling in love and then started getting abused. I mean, really physically abused by the partners, but how they kept coming back, always blaming themselves, always thinking it's my fault, being afraid of the person, this incredible tense energy between people, And we have to analyze it from 2 points of view. And the one that, of course, we don't in the world is the karmic one. And the karmic one is the intensity of the connection between two people. Is so strong, it's like you're bound together. It's like you're locked in prison together. We can't see. I mean, nobody's keeping those people there. One of the commonest questions is, why didn't you leave? And when they read that question out, they all laughed hysterically because you can't even imagine you can leave. So that's the strength of karma, actually. And then the other one is the strength of the neediness to be seen and the hopelessness and having no self-respect. And that's what brings that behavior of putting up with, he really does love me. And then he begs you to forgive him and don't leave me. I beg you, don't leave me. I love you. I won't do it again. And you think, oh, you won't do it again. And it happens again. So that's a classic one of a abusive relationship, male or female, doesn't matter. You understand my point? That's when there's no awareness, there's no self-awareness, there's no self-respect. Do you understand me?
Yes, so it's almost like they're delusional because of the attachment.
Totally
Yeah.
overwhelmed by attachment to each other and the karmic connection to be together. Overwhelmed by it, but we don't understand karma in our culture. We don't think of that in our culture. And I remember one time, one hilarious one, this couple I read about, they were married very briefly, and they're married for 40, 50 years. And then they began very quickly abusing each other. Physically, throwing pots and pans and punching and kicking. And then they'd wipe themselves up and go to bed and get up and do it again the next day. Every day, like nightmare, worse, more and more every day. And at one point he left and she sold the house and moved into a studio apartment. And then he said, can I come back? So she let him back. And then they lived on each side of the room with a sheet in between, and every day beating each other between the sheet there with pots and pans. And then one day he went to the bathroom and dropped dead. I mean, you'd think this is not possible to believe, you know. It's like people who fight, wars. What do you think wars are? It's like anger is so strong between those two groups. All you think of day and night is harming the other. You can't break them up. You'd think if a person was harming, you'd say, please, excuse me, I'm leaving. You'd never have a war. But anger is so based on attachment and your own needs and your righteousness, and you're compelled. You know, when you're angry with your husband, nothing on the planet will stop you from blurting out the words. You've got to tell him. So we're bound together in this garbage, you know, individuals or groups. So we're talking here stuff that's quite advanced. Do you understand?
Yes.
The very first level of practice is leave, kindly leave. And often, I mean, and even then, even if things aren't, and most some people mightn't abuse each other grotesquely, but the number of relationships we can see this where they're passive and there's not even much affection anymore. You don't even like each other anymore. You just live in the same bed, putting up with each other, not making any decision and building animosity and aversion, quiet, passive aggression. I mean, I'd rather go to prison than live like that, you know. People dare to say, how can you be a nun? Aren't you lonely? God Almighty. Who wants to live like that? Do you understand? But most people do, not being rude. And Oprah, one time she said, most women that she, talks about who have bad relationships, rather, they say, better having something is better than having nothing. All too scared to leave, all unafraid to leave, which is the worst, again, disgusting attachment. Passive, the mind full of anger, aversion. One friend of mine is Buddhist, and her mother, the father and mother lived together, seemingly very happy, been together 40 years. And when he was younger, he cheated on her just once. She's never forgiven him. And she's living in the same bed and never forgiven him. And he spends his life kind of like, in a sense, begging her to forgive him. And it never happens. But they go back every day to the same bed. I can't even imagine living, but that's how many relationships are. If that's not suffering, I don't know what is, Forget about being abused. It's a nightmare because of attachment, insecurity, thinking the world, the world won't approve, or I just can't do that. I'll be insecure. I can't live on my own. That's what the commonest thing people say. Intelligent people, no courage. I'm not being rude. It's just true. This is attachment. Attachment to being seen, attachment to being heard, attachment to comfort, attachment to people's opinions, attachment to security. It's awful, just awful. You have to make decisions, make decisions. Make decisions. Yes, Alexa. Andreas.
How do you cultivate
louder, close to the mic.
How do you cultivate patience, or what's the role of patience in the face of social injustice? Like what we are seeing against immigrant communities.
Okay, absolutely,
how do we grab that?
Absolutely. All of these teachings, excuse me, in the Bodhisattva path, again, the teachings of karma are absolutely implicit. The assumption here is you understand karma and live according to it and know that's the reason for all of this happening. But I mean, if you just read them in isolation, you can't hear about karma. But when you understand karma, the first level, which is that everybody is experiencing the fruits of their own past actions, when that's really deep inside us. First for ourselves, we understand ourselves and then can work with it. And now that is informing our ability to have compassion for people. So then we see people who are being harmed and we know in our mind, we just know they caused it. But that doesn't bring bitterness and resentment like it does if we don't have the view of karma. You have compassion for them, incredible compassion for people who are being harmed. Whatever level it is, for the world, the millions of people being harmed, social injustice, as you call it. But if you have the view of karma and you've really practiced it, that's completely informing your compassion for them. More, not just because those evil motherfuckers doing that to my poor innocent victims, but you realize that both of them are in the same boat. There's this karmic connection between these two groups, and the victims of it are experiencing their karma, and the ones who are doing it are creating negative karma. And you have even more compassion for the harmers more than the harmed. That's what's informing your ability to then get out there and practice compassion like the Tibetans do to save their own country. They understand karma. They know the reason this is happening is because of karma. So one of my friends who got arrested in Lhasa 30 years ago, some demonstrations in 87, was a big uprising. And he was telling me about it. He was demonstrating. All the monks and nuns were the demonstrators, you know. And his father got murdered. His brother got murdered. So he better escape. He came to Nepal and he was telling me about it. And I said to him casually, "Oh, Jigdrol, did you get angry?" And he laughed and he said, "Angry? What for?" He said, "It's our own fault," which is the simplest language, meaning I created the cause. What are you talking about? But this is weird for us. That's informing their understanding. So of course so this is the point. Just because it's karma, we think, oh, well, keep harming me, please. It's all my fault. It's karma. No. You know why it's happening. You have compassion for the victims. You have compassion for the poor people. You have compassion also for the harmers, but that is not sentimental compassion. Then you do what you can to help. Then you won't get burnout because you know why it's happening. Burnout comes from because of anger and attachment. And why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? You don't ask that question when you have the view of karma. That takes time. Do you see what I'm saying? And you keep trying. You keep doing it. I remember Martin Luther King, you know. He always blew my mind because he never stopped. He didn't have this view. He had God and everything. But he had patience, incredible patience, but he had action. He said, it's good to find fault. It's good to see injustice and racism. But then you say, what can I do to help? That's compassion. That's great compassion. He didn't have the view of karma. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Do what you can. I remember one time, one conference I went to when I was working for the Prison Project, went to DC, a half-a-day conference, and it was all these little different religious groups, all doing little things, a few little bit here, a few Muslims, a few Christians. This group was so fed up with the way the fundamentalist right-wing Christians were running this Christian show, or the religious one. So there was all these little groups doing what they could. This little group here, this little group there, each one doing what they can. And that's the thing. We can't make the world change overnight. You've got the view of karma, you know why it's happening. So you do what you can and then have the courage to accept that you can't make it all go away. And as you get rid of attachment and anger, you get more courageous, because attachment only wants it to be lovely, and then anger and upset when it's not. Do you understand me? And the other one there too is, this is a big problem when we help people. So let's say you got your mother. You're trying to help your crazy old mum, you know. So you have compassion. You see your mother suffering, but there she is, self-pity and miserable. You don't love me. You never come enough. You never ring me. You never do this. And you keep trying to help your mum. You keep trying to help your mum. You have such compassion, and you walk away and she's still miserable. So our trouble is we then judge ourselves as a failure because your mother didn't get happy. We judge ourselves as a failure and get burnout because the damn world doesn't change. That's our attachment. You see what I'm saying? Your effort to help the world is tremendous, but don't hold your breath that it's going to change quickly. So your mother, you do what you can to help your loving mother or your drunken child or the crazy people. But you delight in your own effort and know you're being virtuous, and then you be content with that. And help where you can. Help one fly, one dog, and get encouragement from that. But we've got attachment that only wants it to all be lovely, then we judge ourselves. That's why we go kill ourselves. Those poor pandemic nurses killed themselves because they couldn't cope with seeing all the unfixed people, like they were a failure. That's a total mistake. You with me? Good. So keep helping the people. Absolutely. What else?
Question.
Where are we?
Yeah.
Yes, Don.
So six perfections, and that is supposed to be kind of infused, I guess.
Is that being what?
Bodhicitta. When we talk about you practice each
Right.
perfection with bodhicitta.
That's right. Of course, it's all based on
So
bodhicitta.
I'm trying to figure out how do you do that? I mean, it seems like there's these things to do, but then to infuse that experience with bodhicitta.
I'm a
unless
bit
you
lost,
just spend
Don.
a lot
I'm
of
a bit
time-
lost. Say it again, different way. I'm a bit lost. Say it again. I want to hear. Say it again.
Okay, so practicing the sixth perfection should be done with bodhicitta motivation.
Okay, so stop. Okay, so there you are, have an opportunity to give money to a homeless person, which is an example of the first one of giving. So take an example of that. Now ask your question about that one action. Explain.
All right, so you're going to give an offering to a poor person so they can.
Okay, so what's the question now then? Give it in that action. What's your question?
Okay, you do it with bodhicitta motivation.
Well, I mean, okay.
You do it with motivation, knowing that you're going to benefit them, but benefit yourself, and then you're going to become enlightened.
But what it means is that there's a difference between practicing and being it. If you're practicing the piano, it's sort of like bodhicitta motivation is the goal to be a Buddha is every time I practice the piano, I'm aiming to be, like Bach. But you're only at first level yet. So you're playing, you're practicing. I'm trying to become like Bach. I'm doing this so I can become like Bach. That's all you can say. I'm giving now. I'm trying to think of giving. I give my money. And why am I doing this? Because I want to become a Buddha. That's how you do it. You say those thoughts. And as you keep getting better and better, it becomes it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
You see, when it says do it with bodhicitta, we kind of go, huh? So when you play tennis, you do it with the thought to become like Federer. You play the piano with the thought to become like Bach. It's just informing you're doing it. Why you're doing this so you can become like Bach. And you're becoming Bach by doing it. So be happy and rejoice. There's one more little step towards becoming a Buddha. Are we communicating?
Yeah.
You sure?
I mean, I'm listening to an Audible book on the nectar of bodhicitta and Kunalama Rinpoche's Eat with bodhicitta, play the piano with bodhicitta, do everything with bodhicitta.
So what do you think it means? What do you think it means, Don? Because we don't talk like this in the normal world. What do you think it means?
I mean, in practical terms, I think
practical terms, what
I
does it
have
mean?
to do the work to develop a bigger heart, a bigger mind, less
No,
selfish.
it's too general. All he means is, when Lama Zopa says, eat your dinner with bodhicitta, he means sit there and instead of shoving it in, having attachment to be your motivation, you sit there and you think, why am I eating this lunch? So I can become a Buddha to benefit others. And that thought is eating with bodhicitta. That's it. Done. Finished. You just did it. So, okay, all it means is right now, as ordinary people, the motivation that we have that drives everything we do automatically is attachment. It's just how it is, Don. You with me? So doing it with bodhicitta means you stop before you put the food in the mouth, you stop before you have that drink, and you think. Many ways to think, but the simplest one is this. So in other words, technically, to make that, this is technical, to make that action an action that will drop a seed into my mind that will add to my Buddhahood, instead of being an action that will drop a seed into my mind that will turn into suffering, you change your thought. That's doing it with bodhicitta. You have to practice having the thought. That's as simple as that, Don. You're changing the thought. You're counteracting the thought of attachment, which is spontaneous. And we're trying to make bodhicitta spontaneous. So you have to start first with the thought. You have to say it out loud. I am eating this food so I can become a Buddha. May it make me healthy so I can become a better person. Straight away you shift, you change your motivation from delusion to virtue. That's it, technically, doing it with bodhicitta. That's what it means, technically. Do you see what I'm saying? Not a vague thing about become a better person. It's progress. It's like every time you play tennis, that's the point. Why are you holding that racket and hitting this thing there? So I can become like Federer. That's it, and it informs your action. You with me? You think? It just means changing your thought. Practical, that's the first level. You have to make it first intellectual, and eventually it becomes experiential. Eventually it'll actually happen. So in other words, you see, that's the big thing too that I think, are we clear, Don? Do you think we're clear?
Yes.
You seem doubtful.
No, I got it.
I think it's clear. It's really clear, you know, the thoughts. So I remember, like with, what was I saying? One thing about meditation, I think we think of meditation, you're not saying this now, is like an experience. I'm doing a meditation. I'm having an experience. But meditation, all these things, is literally training. You're doing training. You know, every time you get on a bike, you're having a session of riding a bike. You're training yourself to ride a bike. And then you get on the bike again, you're slightly better at it. And you get on your bike again. It's called training. It's called training. And that's what we're doing. We're training, Don. And training includes your mind, changing your motivation, and doing the action. And you get better and better and better at it. And one day you'll be a bodhisattva, and it'll be automatic that the food is seen as nectar. Automatically, you can only eat it for the sake of others. That's all it is. So you have to train, starting with conceptual thoughts. That's all it is. It's training. Every time you do it, it's training. That's it. That's doing it with bodhicitta until eventually you become a bodhisattva. And that's the cause of it. It's training. Don't understand me. So I always think of the story of Harry, the story I always tell of Harry, this American who was a monk, who's not now, and he lived for years and years in his cave up above Lama Zopa's place. Him and Mary Colony, they live in Colorado now, where they have yaks or something. I think all these Tibetan Buddhists are there, along with the yaks. Anyway, somewhere in Colorado, Crestone, that's right. So anyway, Harry had this cave up in the mountains. You know, he was an incredible practitioner, a yogi. And he was there for years and years practicing in meditation. So when we hear that, we're a bit puzzled. What's he doing in meditation? You know, well, he's training his mind to become a bodhisattva. What do you think? Training his mind with thoughts and then practice. Training to become a bodhisattva. So there he is. One day, he was up in the mountains. He went off, and he was at Kopan, early 90s or something. And he was getting ready to go up to his cave. And Lama Zopa said he had a dream that Harry would die, to tell him not to go. But it was too late. He'd gone. Must have been the 80s, because it was before cell phones. It was too late to send a message. So Lama Zopa asked Geshe Lama Kontrog, this amazing yogi who lived in the mountains, naked, no food, no sleep, lived in Vajrayogini's Pure Land, amazing being, a yogi. He asked him to pray for Harry. So anyway, Harry told me the story. He was up in the mountains, and there's some path where you walk up there, it's like 10 days with your pack on your back. And it's very treacherous in some places. And so some point had been a kind of rocks falling, so they had to take another path. And these porters with their 50-kilo packs, you know, it's very treacherous. You can fall off the mountain. One of the treks that we did up to Laudo, I nearly fell off the mountain. A yak nearly knocked me over. You know, I got in the way, and the yak herder got mad at me for upsetting his yak, you know. So it's very easy to fall over the mountains. Anyway, there's Harry walking up this path. Years and years in meditation, right? Training. So, you know, training, not having blissful feelings, but training to be a Buddha. So suddenly he sees four porters coming down with their big packs, really treacherous, really narrow. Strangers, right? Four porters. And the first thought he had, he said, he told this story, it's very helpful. He said, four of them, one of me, I'll step to the side. So this is all part of how you get bodhicitta. They give all these logical arguments against stupid old ego that there's more, that four is more, I'm one, therefore they're more important. I mean, that's hilarious to us, you know. So that was his first thought. Now, before we get any further, he could not have had that thought, Don, if he hadn't practiced having it in meditation. You're training in meditation for the real time, like you're training on the back courts, and now you can go to Wimbledon. So he was training to the point, now this is the proof of the pudding. He's training, putting others first in his meditation, training doing Tonglen, training. Now the opportunity comes for people, four of them, one of me, he puts his money where his mouth is, and he steps to the side of the cliff. Second thought, if they knock me, I won't hold on. Now, it's not possible. Maybe his children. But for a stranger, excuse me, mate. So he's trained his mind by having the thoughts. So then, in fact, they knocked him. It was so treacherous and so intense. And I mean, one of my friends who was doing this portering, he said, all you do is see your feet for 10 days, you know, because you can't even move. It's so intense. And so he's falling. His feet are on the ground. His pack is pulling him. And he said, I had a vision of the entire fall, a psychic vision of the entire fall. I saw my body crash to the ground. And then he said, as he's falling, his feet are on the ground, and he feels the hands of Geshe Lama Kontrog forcefully pushing him, and he reversed direction and fell onto the path. So what I'm getting at is he's had the thoughts. He trained in the thoughts. But they don't say that to us like that. So we get confused on, you know. We think, oh, I've got to be like a bodhisattva. How can I do something with bodhicitta? Oh, you have the thoughts. Train with the thoughts until eventually it's experiential. So then he's put his money where he was the proof of the pudding, you know. All the years of meditating, he was able to now do it. That's why I'd have thoughts first. May I be able to? May I? Can I? Every time you eat your food, I'm doing this to benefit others. And eventually it'll become automatic, you know, because mind creates everything. It's training, you know. Time for lunch. Okay, people? Are we communicating? Are we communicating? Are we communicating, Naga? Yes, darling. Yes?
Yes, yes,
Good, darling.
yes.
Good, I'm happy. Okay, we're going to have lunch. We're going to have lunch now. I don't know what
Yeah.
you are doing on your side of the planet. Maybe you're all in the same time zone. I don't know. Thank you, people. We'll see you in 2. Is it 2 hours? Is it? Okay, good. Thank you, people. We delight. We give away the merit. We just for 2 hours we've been planting millions of seeds in our mind. They will not go astray, and they're going to ripen in the result of our virtue and goodness. They're the fruits. So we're going to give those fruits away. We're going to think, why have we done this? Why have we done this action? So we can, the fruits that will come from our virtue, we're happy to give them to others. Think like that. And that's what makes it happen. Your thoughts create everything, not even cosmically, long term. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, people. Thank you so much. Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Thank you, people. See you in a couple.
Thank you. Mhm.
Thanks, everyone online. We'll see you back at 2. Thanks, Peter, for being host back up. There's no plans, but yeah. Hang on.